so I just filmed this whole video, or I thought I did, but I actually didn't. And I went to go edit it and I was like, where's the video? It never happened. I'm gonna start again and hopefully be as informative and boisterous as the last one. Today I'm making walnut milk. And the reason I'm making walnut milk is because God, so many reasons. Do I want to go to the grocery store? Deal with the lineups during COVID? You can get as micro as like, do I want to support industries that are contributing to carbon footprint? Or when I can just make this stuff at home. It's so easy to just get a bunch of different nuts from the bulk store. You just bring your 1 liter jar and you go to the bulk store and they will work it out for you so that you're able to have less waste by using glass. I know it's a little bit heavier, but these are the small things that if many people or everybody started to do, it would make a huge global impact. That shit matters. Walnuts, they stay in the pantry for a long time. Any nut seed, really easy to, buy a bunch and keep it and just make nut milk as you please. I chose walnut milk because walnuts are really beautiful. The problem with nuts and seeds is that they contain phytic acid, which is an anti-nutrient. Phytic acid is something that binds to minerals in the gut and it pulls away from the gut's ability to produce enough enzymes to break down your food. When we think about that rich enzymatic environment that we want so that we're breaking down food to its smallest form, we're getting it into the gut, into our blood, versus into the pathogens or any infections or dysbiosis that we might have. We don't want to feed those microbes. Digestion is the first step of having a good, healthy body and immune system. Chewing really well, chewing slowly, all of the mindful eating practices, all of these things help. Phytic acid, what you can do to help to sidestep that as an issue is you just soak your nuts or soak your seeds. That will really help to take down the phytic acid levels. So you want to do about 4 hours of soaking, rinse them really, really well, and then you put them into the blender. So I am loving walnuts because they are low FODMAP. Low FODMAP just means that they don't contain the indigestible sugars that the infections in the gut tend to like to feed from. So it's fermentable oligosaccharides, monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polys. I just wrote a blog about some of that. It's the fudgy chocolate walnut bites. So check it out, bewellwithhope.com if you want the recipe and also to learn more about FODMAPs and phytic acid there. The walnuts are low FODMAP and you can reduce the phytic acid by soaking them for 4 hours. I'm putting 1 cup, I've already made it, so I'm not gonna pretend like I'm doing it, but I did 1 cup of nuts to 4 cups of water. And I always recommend filtered water. Even a Brita is better than just tap water. It filters out at least the heavy metals from the water, or most of them. And heavy metals can be problematic because they settle in the body. They can, it's like sediment, and they can disrupt our organ function and our immune function. Brita at the very least, and then there's all different kinds of beautiful water filters that you can get fancy about from there. The blender that I'm using is a Vitamix. This thing is on its last legs. I've had it since nutrition school, but it still works, so I'm using it. I just fill up 4 cups of water and then add the 1 cup of nuts, and you just blend it up. The thing I love about a Vitamix is you want that really high-powered blender so that you really pulverize what's in there. When you look at the difference between like a NutriBullet and this, the NutriBullet will leave a lot of matter in there that's not pulverized. So if you want a really smooth, creamy texture for your soups, your sauces, your milks, etc., and it's available to you to get a Vitamix, I definitely love this. Cuisinart and like Ninjas and all of that, you just want that really nice high-powered blender if possible. If not, you can still make your own nut milk with a NutriBullet. It'll work, but the problem is you'll lose the amount of actual nutrition and milk, right? Because it's just less matter going into the milk. Just be mindful of that. There's a few different ways that you can strain your nut milk. I have a 100% pure cotton towel that if this is all you have, you can totally use this. So you would just pour it through. I would put an elastic band around a big, tall, jug of some type. Put an elastic band around it and pour the milk in there and just let it drip through. I wouldn't recommend untying it and like milking it. It just gets really messy. That's one way of doing it. Don't love that. I find it really messy. The other way is to have a nut milk bag. So these are really cheap. Don't go buying $15 nut milk bags. They're crazy. I go to my health food store. They sell these. They actually market them as ways to store your vegetables or when you're going grocery shopping instead of using plastic bags. So I use it for those, but I also use it for nut milk. You would just, same thing, drape it around the edge, pour the nut milk through there, and just let it drip through. What I used today, that was like $4 for 3 of them, by the way. Most people will have a sieve. The finer the better, and I just pour it through, and the pulp of the walnut will start to kind of coagulate, or coagulate. You want to kind of move it around. You can take the back of a spoon to push it through. The pulp that's left over, if there's enough, you could use it for smoothies or baking even, but you want to make sure that you remove as much pulp as possible so that the nut milk itself is really creamy and smooth. This is 750 milliliters, this beautiful mason jar, and it's filled right to the top. And it's super creamy. Oh my God, it's so gorgeous. So some people like to add sweetener. You can do like 2 dates, just pit them. You could use maple syrup. You would want to do it when you are blending the nuts at the same time. Or if you want to be super diligent, you could strain everything, put it back into the Vitamix, and then blend it up with without losing any of the sweetness in the pulp. Other things that you can add to this to make it really gorgeous would be, you know, vanilla, like a half a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons, depending on how much you're making. So you could have your own homemade vanilla sweetened naturally with no fillers, no junk. It's just super clean. I don't love adding stuff to it. I like it just as is. And if I want to make it sweet for an elixir, you know, you could add 2 to 3 tablespoons of cacao powder to this and make a chocolate milk with maple syrup. And you could turn that into an elixir by adding some chaga tea. You could add any adaptogens that you like to it. You could heat it up or cool it down. I think that this is one of the most beautiful things to have as a staple in my fridge. And it's decadent, you know, it's gorgeous. It tastes so vibrant. I love giving this as gifts to people depending on the season or depending on the person. For me, I'm just going to be using this in smoothies and in my morning organic coffee. It is gorgeous. I mean, it's creamy, it's frothy, it tastes like walnuts, it's exotic and decadent. It's just such a beautiful recipe. If you do make anything with this, tag me. I would love to see it. Be Well With Hope is my handle on Instagram, and you can use the hashtag Be Well With Hope as well. I'd love to see if you make any, you know, smoothies or any elixirs, if you're pouring it in your coffee in the morning, to show that gorgeous depth that it gives, that color that it gives the coffee. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that this has been insightful. I hope you use the recipe, and check out my website for more info, bewellwithhope.com. Ciao.